Hey there.
I appreciate you doing the interview.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Thanks for
Great.
asking us,
Yeah, of
asking me.
course. Of course. My first question is you mentioned that having old hard drives that failed, and you guys had to kind of rely on cassettes that you made and record cassette recordings.
Huh?
What was kind of like the actual recovery and archiving process?
Those are two separate things. The demos, I just so happen to have those tapes in a box somewhere,
Hmm.
and didn't really occur to me to even go looking for those until kind of recently, and I was lucky enough to dig those up and borrow a 4 track and yeah, digitize those. All the failed hard drives, those are like older or newer
Well,
things. Some of them my songs, some of them other bands that I had recorded.
mhm.
I was a recording engineer for a while, recording other bands as well. So unfortunately, I lost some of their stuff as well. Luckily, all of that was finished, and but yeah, I lost a lot of my own stuff, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It just so happens to hardware sometimes.
Yeah, luckily now solid state drives are prevalent, so they
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
fail the old
Yeah.
spinning whatever the IDE drives and stuff.
Yeah,
I
the
still have
issue
them.
is, yeah,
There are companies that can retrieve data off of those. I think they have to actually uh, mechanically transfer
yeah,
parts from
yep,
one to the other. Quite expensive, but hopefully one day I'll be able to do that. I
yeah,
don't even know what's on them. I have like 3 or 4 drives that may or may not have useful stuff on them.
yeah. My next question is, so when you do go and uh, try to preserve your songs, how much do you try to preserve for nostalgia's sake, and how much do you try to write or like fix it with your current sensibilities?
Uh, yeah. So for the demo, I pretty much just took what was there. It was everything, but so we went live to 2 tracks on the 4 tracks. So there was drums, bass, and guitars on
Hmm.
left and right, 1 and 2, and then on three, either myself or Ned would double up our guitar parts or add a second guitar part or whatever, and then the fourth track was our vocals. So I pretty much just dumped them in as it was and tried to sort of recapture the original mix. Honestly, there was a couple things that I just omitted because they were embarrassing listening back, 30 years
Yeah,
later.
yeah,
So if anybody does have the original demo for some reason, they might notice a couple small
yeah.
insignificant differences.
All right. Um, and you mentioned that you recorded on a 4 track. Do you think that the endless options of like today's modern digital recording environment is kind of like makes it harder to finish a song as compared to like the limitations of a 4 track that kind of force you to be more creative?
I think so. Yeah, you have to commit for sure. I've spent a lot of time in the recording studio the last couple of years with like newer Hudson stuff and other projects with other friends of mine, and you definitely spend more time sort of revisiting a part, going over and over, and admittedly, you sometimes you'll cobble things together with editing. When we recorded for weeks at a time, that was sort of on the precipice of digital recording. ADATs had been around for a while. We recorded those on the Tascam DA88s, but they were still tapes. There was no computer involved. It was a tape, 3 tape machines and
Yeah.
a large console. There was no editing.
Hmm.
We punched in. I assume I punched in guitar parts and vocal parts and stuff, but there was no, shifting an early snare drum part or
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
late kick drum hit or anything like that. So yeah, you definitely spend a lot more time fussing with stuff and going back to it.
My next question is, who are some of your early influences that inspired the album?
Um, Obviously bands like Unwound on the demo. We were going for sort of a heavier, noisier sound on those first 7 tracks. Unwound, Drive Like Jehu, Jawbox. Said it many times, but Dinosaur Jr., The Cure, those were sort of like my first influences. Those were the sort of the bands that got me wanting to get into music. But at the time of For Weeks, we were listening to a lot of like Seam and Codeine and Juno 44 and Shudder to Think and 3 Mile Pilot, Blackheart Procession. That's me. I mean, Chris
Yeah.
and Darren and
Hmm.
we all sort of had similar tastes, but they all obviously had their own sort of tastes beyond that.
You have like field recordings and some of your songs.
Uh-huh.
Uh, do you, when you go back and revisit this material, do you kind of want to leave it as it is, or do you kind of want to push it more forward?
Yeah, I mean those songs. I don't have the multi-track tape, so we're just dealing with the 2 track, the left and
Mm,
right. And so when I do get those remastered, like we're not going to really be able to adjust any levels or
yeah.
anything like that. It's going to be, I mean, I do have several takes of each of those songs, and I've been coming through them trying to figure out like which one we actually used on the album, and I may select parts from one versus the
Hmm.
other, and I but I haven't put too much thought into. I mean, obviously, there's times when I wish the vocals were a little bit louder, and
Yeah.
times when I wish certain things were quieter.
Hmm.
But haven't given much thought to the mix overall. But yeah, those when we send those off to mastering, it's literally just going to be a volume thing and an EQ adjustment more than anything.
Yeah.
It'll sound pretty much like the first release of it,
Hmm.
just a little louder.
Totally valid. And my last question is, do you have a message to the world?
Oh man, put me on the spot.
No pressure. I mean, just like, it could just be like
Give me a week to think about it, and I'll come
yeah,
back.
yeah, okay.
No, I think I don't know. I've been putting a lot of thought lately into. So I just turned 50. I've been working like blue collar jobs all my life, and for a long time, it just seemed like that was sort of what I had to do as a man or a productive member of society. And I kind of put my art and myself, my mental health, sort of in the background,
Hmm.
and I wish I hadn't. And I'm trying harder now to just like not work so hard and not put so much energy and focus into how I make money and how I pay the bills, and trying to get back into the studio
Hmm.
and write. And um, what I've discovered too is that agonizing over trying to make everything perfect at the expense of just not doing it, like wishing you had all the resources and all the time lined up and all of that stuff, and letting that be a barrier. So I would guess I would just say like just do what you can, make what you can when you can, and don't force anything. Let stuff come natural. If you're a painter and you're worried about wasting time on a crappy painting, don't just make a crappy painting for the sake of painting. If you're worried you're not a good enough singer, and that keeps you from singing, like you know don't let it. Just sing. Write a crappy song, and then maybe your next song will be better, and the song after that'll be better. And yeah, I don't know. I think people get hung up on they have barriers thrown up in front of them that keep them from doing things that they want, or creating something and doing something meaningful with their life. And that's something that I've kind of regret looking back on the last 30 years of my life, is just kind of putting art and stuff in the background. So
I
yeah,
appreciate those words.
thanks,
Yeah.
man.
I mean, those are all the questions I had. I really appreciate, coming on and doing the interview.
Yeah,
Um,
it was fun. My pleasure.